All right, everyone. Welcome to part two of our special two-part series of The Last Dance on No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by Belly Up Sports. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the hosts, and to my right is a man who would love to have a guy like Gus in his corner, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing this episode?
I'm doing all right. I need Gus in my corner. I think everyone needs a Gus in their corner. The strong, silent type, but you knew you didn't want to mess with him. He had that air about him. I think everyone needs someone like that in their corner. I am ready to jump into this. I'm sure you are. I can't wait to get going. I was grilling today. The weather was nice. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to talking about the last 5 episodes of The Last Dance. In this episode, we chopped it up in our last episode about episodes 1 through 5. We went through the preamble prior to the episodes about when it was recorded, how it came to be, when it was aired. This one, we're going to dive straight in to episodes 6 through 10 and give our final thoughts about the series and whether we'll see something like this ever again on our television screens. But before we do that, we just want to remind you to please follow us on social media. That goes on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. And also check out our other podcasts and articles at bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, YouTube, and Podbean. And you can also hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube. That way you're aware of our live show when we go live. You're aware of show announcements, and you're also aware of when we post videos on YouTube. We've seen tremendous growth, especially in July. And we want to thank our audience and thank those who watch. And also, if you're watching and you're not subscribed, hit that subscription button. We're at 400 subscribers, a little bit over that. We want to get to 500, that magic 500, so we can start to try to get monetization. So thank you to all of you who subscribe on YouTube. And also, if you're watching on Belly Up Sports YouTube, which this is where this will air, subscribe to them. Again, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. On the podcast side.
And it goes without saying, if you're listening or watching this right now and you haven't seen the first episode, go back and watch that. And, and then tweet at us and hit us up on Instagram. I'm at eldusto67. He is at whoisryanmc. Hit him up and let us know what you think.
Actually, it's Ryan MCC, but that's okay.
Oh, man, I mispronounced it.
Part for the course for the show. Also, if you're listening on podcast side, rate, review, comment, leave a 5-star rating. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podchaser. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment. If you're watching on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, leave a comment. What do you think about if you watched The Last Dance, what do you think of the series? What are some takeaways that you have? What are some things you remember about this 90s Bulls team, this era of the NBA? Which is my favorite era, to be honest. It really hasn't matched ever since, in my humblest of opinion. Some might say this is the greatest era. Go back and watch this documentary. Go back and watch this docuseries. Watch some 90s highlights from the NBA from back when. And you'll be hard-pressed to disagree with us. But we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about episode 6 starting off here. And I'm going to lead off in this episode, Dustin. You lead off with episode 1. I'll lead up with episode 6. And this is where you start to see Michael Jordan's popularity. It starts with Michael Jordan's popularity. And actually, let me start the timer because we'd have a timer about. We're trying to spend 10 minutes on
forever.
We're going to try to spend 10 minutes on each episode. So starting the clock right meow. This episode starts off about the rising popularity of Michael Jordan. You see that series, the era. I think it was about remember the VHS tape about his life and his popularity, doing the outtakes from that about popularity and how it's hard for him to live a normal life. And you see with this and the astronomical demand for appearances, for dealing with media, fans on and off the court, and yet he still every night for 82 games a year, he still performed. All that demand off the court, and he still performed on the court. And this is not for being a celebrity back in the 90s when there's no social media, there's barely the internet. The only thing I remember from the 90s internet is Prodigy and AOL.
Those AOL discs, Ryan, you'd get them in the mail. The trials.
We'll get them into the 2000s too.
Yeah.
But then it gets into his gambling. The gambling that he says, whether it was big money, it was small money on the plane, playing with Ron Harper, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. They're playing for hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, playing games of cards. Go up to the front, and the guys like Will Perdue and Judd Bushler and Steve Kerr and John Paxson, all of them, they're playing for $1, $2 hands. Big money, small money, didn't matter. Michael Jordan just wanted your money in his pocket.
Yep.
Then we come to the 92-93 season, where we see this champion of all champions. We found out that he's human. Out came the book, The Jordan Rules by Sam Smith. Mm-hmm. Everything just seems to talk about how Jordan's a bully, telling the story about that 91-92 season, all that behind the scenes stuff. From that season, Michael Jordan blames Horace Grant. He says, yeah, he was the source for all this. Horace denies it, but I have some doubts because it could have been not just Horace. It could have been other sources, other players, teammates, other teammates of Michael Jordan's, coaching staff, trainers, people who interacted with him at the arena. It could have been a numerous amount of sources, but Michael Jordan puts the blame squarely on Horace. And Horace says, no, it's not. It wasn't just me, or it wasn't me at all.
Yeah.
I have doubts. I have doubts. We come to the Knicks. They're like the Detroit Pistons. I call them Detroit Pistons Junior. The 1990s Knicks, especially the early 90s Knicks, they were the Detroit Pistons Junior. Although they had a significant amount of talent, they kind of acted like the 80s Pistons, the late 80s Pistons, the early 90s Pistons. The Bulls were clearly the more talented. They were the better team. So they talk about Eastern Conference Final, Game 1. Michael Jordan has a bad performance. The team performs not as great as they should. They go down 0-1. Then we come to the Atlantic City controversy. Jordan and his dad, they rent a limo. They go down to Atlantic City, go back in time for Game 2. And then we find out the allegations of the gambling and his association with James Slim Buller,
mm-hmm.
and all that stuff coming out. And even David Stern said, it never reached a level where it was crisis levels in my view. Like there was no epic crisis level that we need to address with Michael Jordan. And the media just absolutely would just harangue on him. And Magic Johnson said to a lot of people in the media saying, you're gonna tear him away from the game. You're gonna ruin this. You're gonna ruin this for him. Teammates rally around Jordan. They go down 0-2. They win the remaining 4 games of the series, and they advance to the NBA Finals. Go back to 98. Playoffs are beginning. Back to 93, the finals. We go back to the finals with they're playing golf. In the 98 finals, the playoffs beginning. Phil gives the crew some time off, the players some time off. They're out playing golf. Then we rewind back to the 93 finals against Phoenix. Charles Barkley wins league MVP. Jordan takes it personally. You see a lot of this in the last 5 episodes of this series where Jordan's not named season MVP. He takes it as a slight and he goes out and he just balls out.
Yep.
And they come to Game 5. They lose Game 5 at home. They're going to Phoenix. Jordan tells the rest of his teammates, I'm only bringing 1 suit.
Yep.
And go ahead.
That's a throwback to Magic did the same thing against the Celtics in the 80s there.
85 finals.
Yeah. So it's just the generations going back. I love the way this documentary handles all of that.
Yeah. Then we got in Game 6, the Bulls only scored. It's interesting. I went back to the scoreline of Game 6 of the 93 finals. The Bulls only scored 12 points in that fourth quarter of Game 6. Jordan scored 9 of them, but it was Paxson with the game-winning 3, and that is kind of a foreshadow to what's going to happen in '97. And at that time, after the '93 finals, Jordan's done. Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, he's done. And we fast forward to the '98 playoffs, and he's saying, he's saying to Ahmad Rashad before Game 1 against New Jersey, he says, "I want to be done 2 years before my body says I'm done." And that kind of ends it from there. So I just looking at those and I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I mean, 93, 90, 92, 93, Jordan is just he's his first candle, because I see this in 2 parts. His career, NBA career, with 2 candles. One candle is starting to burn out, and the other candle is getting lit in '95, which we'll come to in episode, I believe it's episode 8. But that's my thoughts on episode 6. What about you, Dustin? How about we talk about this?
Well, I'm gonna hit on a lot of the same things you did, and since you spoke so well about them, I won't have much to say. However, I will say, in the first half of this documentary, I felt that each episode had a theme, but it was revolving around a person, a specific teammate: Phil, Rodman, Pippen, Jordan. The back 9 of this series, if you will, it starts to veer away from that, and it focuses much more on Jordan, and it kind of goes with different aspects of Jordan. So this took the theme that started in episode 5, where there were multiple focuses, and it continued it into episode 6. And I have in parentheses, pressure, Jordan rules, book. And that's what this episode centers around. And this is where you start to see some cracks in Jordan's armor, because everybody is realizing he's not perfect and that he can be a bit of a bully. Although in later episodes, we'll hear some teammates talk about what that did for them, and they realize that's what he was trying to do. But we'll get to that later. You talked about the gambling wasn't about the thrill of gambling for him. It was about the competitiveness. You talked about that scene where Will Perdue, they're playing dollar blackjack hands. Meanwhile, Jordan's in the back of the bus playing huge money. And Perdue asks him, he says, "Why do you want to play with us?" He says, "Because I want to know that I've got your money in my pocket." The amount didn't matter. And Stern, as a continuation, said, of what you said, the reason Stern never worried about it, he said Michael Jordan had the money. He wasn't gambling money that he did not have. He more than had the money, so it never reached a critical level. And you talked about the Buller check and the Richard Esquinas book and all the things that were coming out. And this is where you really start to see Michael start to close in on his relationship with the media, because Magic said, you're going to force him away if you keep doing this. And this is around the time period where Michael has his father handle the interaction with the media. And Michael said, you don't have to do this, and his father James said, "Let me do this for you. Let me talk to them. Let me handle this." And as you mentioned astutely, Jordan took it personally when Barkley was named MVP in 1993. This is a reoccurring theme, and episode 6 has one of my favorite quotes from Charles. Charles doesn't have a lot of time in this series, but what he does have, he brings his Barkley flair to him. It's why he's so good on him inside the NBA. He said, "I played as well as I possibly could in 1993, and Jordan still beat me." He straight up admits it. And Charles is a pretty good, confident guy, but he has that great quote in front of the media. When the Suns steal that game, they steal game 5. The Bulls thought it was going to be over. All the Chicago fans, and Charles says, they said, "You have anything to say before the series go back to Phoenix?" And he says, I'll censor it, but he says, "You better take that stuff out the windows. You ain't going to need it tonight." And it just, that's classic Charles to me. That made me laugh. But even Charles, a bad man in his own right, is admitting, he said, "I played as well as I could in 93, and Jordan still beat me." And also, again, Jerry Krause is a constant presence throughout this documentary. Michael Jordan said, "I knew I knew that Jerry Krause thought that Dan Marley was a great defensive player. And he said, oh, that's all I needed. I was going to prove to him that he wasn't. And, it's Jordan taking these little nuggets and using them to motivate himself. And that's all I have to say about the episode, because you covered everything else I wanted to talk about. But I got to get that Barkley quote in there.
All right, we're going to move on to episode 7 now. And Dustin, I'll have you lead off with episode 7. What's your thoughts on it?
All right. So this is episode 7. The theme of this, I have James Jordan and parentheses baseball. So, Jerry Krause responds. This episode opens, and a lot of times you and I have mentioned that Jerry Krause has been unnecessarily, he's been painted as the villain in this documentary, mostly because of how Jordan and Scotty and the team reacted to him, and sometimes Phil. But Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf, they kind of, it's obvious Reinsdorf supported what Krause was doing. However, this is the one episode where I really kind of turned on Jerry Krause, even though he's not in it much. The quote that he opens with, he says, "There is no backstabbing going on." I guess he's correct technically, because he's not going behind anybody's back.
No,
but he also told Phil, you could go 82-0 and you're not going to be the head coach next year. And and he's telling the players he's going to break the team up. So he's right. There's no backstabbing. He's saying it straight to their face, but it doesn't feel right. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, why are you saying this before the team's season? Are you trying to use it as a motivating factor? Because it's just pissing a bunch of people off.
To which yeah, you talked about, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But it's interesting that it was Craig Sager, may he rest in peace. He's the one who asked the question about backstabbing going on. And you see Jerry Krause walk off, and you hear one of the other reporters saying, "Way to go, Craig."
Craig Sager, those suits, I still remember them. And he also offered, he gave, I think Dennis, I can't remember what episode it was, but Craig Sager gave him a $20 bill to pay one of Dennis's fines.
That was.
So, yeah, Craig Sager, small part in this, but an essential part. But so it didn't sit right with me where he's like, there's no backstabbing. It's like, yeah, Jerry, but you're causing a bunch of problems with the firestorm that you started. Did you not think that the media was going to, go in on this and this was going to be the theme for the entire season? I mean, come on. That's where I kind of was like, all right, Jerry, that's like a little ridiculous. But the episode talks about the bond that Michael had with his father and the death of his father. And you realize how close they were and everything. And it just really goes in. It doesn't go a lot into the relationship that he has with his father, but there's a lot of implied closeness. You see James there for every early finals win. And then there's key moments that Dolores Jordan talks about how they were so close, and that Michael would tell his father things that he would tell no one else. So, and it talks about the senseless death of James Jordan in here. And I love the myth. Then it talks about Jordan going into baseball. And it's very interesting that Mark Vassil, the author of Rare Air, said, I knew that I'm sorry, I mispronounced it.
That's okay.
He said, I knew that Jordan was going to go play baseball. He said, he told me he was going to do it in 92, where you talked about that, where Jordan was showing how exhausted he was. So the myth that Jordan was suspended by Stern for gambling, fully debunked in here. And Jordan straight up says, I played baseball because my father always wanted me to do it. And one of the last conversations I had with him, he said, do it. If it's something you want to do, do it. And this is where we start to see the pressure that Jordan put on his basketball teammates. They were terrified of him, and they all admit it. But they said it pushed them all to do better. And I just want to say that Jordan, a lot of people say that, Reinsdorf says it. Terry Francona says that the fact that Jordan even hit over 200 was a feat. Reinsdorf thinks that if Jordan stuck with baseball, he'd make the majors. I don't know about all that, but it was clear he was starting to learn to hit the breaking ball after pitchers. He went on a 13-game hit streak when he first got there. Pitchers figured it out, threw him a bunch of breaking stuff, and then he struggled, but he put in the work, as we knew he would. And with that, I'll pass it to you so that you can get your thoughts in. But before I do, I just want to say the time that Jordan was away, you start to see that Scotty kind of takes the lead, but you can see their different leadership styles. Yep. Scotty leads with a bit of a softer hand. And with that, I'll cede it over to you.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Dustin, it starts with the press conference that Jerry Krause has. I'm going to defend Jerry Krause.
Okay.
I know you were saying that kind of the worm kind of turned in terms of Krause in this episode. I'm going to push back and say I think he was right to defend himself, because he did say at the beginning of the season, he tells Phil Jackson it was public knowledge.
Yep.
That this was going to be Phil Jackson's last year, because he had a contingency plan in place for the 98-99 season. He wanted to bring in Tim Floyd. So I would say, there was no backstepping going on. Phil Jackson knew this was going to be his last season as Bulls head coach. And I didn't like the fact that he walked off after that question. But at the same time, I would take offense too if that was the same question addressed to me.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's a human being, and I understand. Like I said, he was right. There's no backstabbing. He was matter of fact about it. He told everybody what was going to happen before the season, but also to walk off. You caused the firestorm, Jerry. Deal with it. You're the one. You're the one. You caused all this. You could have kept it quiet and kept it a team matter instead of going out in the media and saying all this stuff and then walk off when you have to deal with the consequences of it. Forget about it.
Well, he can't hear you because he's dead.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's that. But we're coming to the end of the 93 season. James Jordan talks about his relationship with his dad, how he's tough, but he's fair. And it talks about how in 8th grade, Michael got in trouble. He got suspended 3 times during the school year. And James sat him down and said, if you keep this up, there's no sports. We're going to take sports away from you. And that straightened him out right away. And he said, that's where this is the path I wanted to go to. If I wanted to go that way, I had to listen to him. And James knew that Michael was going to retire at the end of the season because he wanted to play baseball. And his dad said, do it. Because baseball was basically Michael Jordan's first love. Like his dad wanted him to play baseball, but he chose basketball instead. And he played all the way through high school. Then we find out in July 93, James goes missing. He's later found dead. In the next month, in August of 93, he's found dead. And he was murdered by 2 teenagers, by 2 18-year-olds. And he was just off the North Carolina, South Carolina border. He was found in a creek, which is just how can I put this? I'm trying to put this in the right context here. It's such a dishonorable way to dispose of a body. It's just, it's not right.
No. And
the winning conspiracy theory that James was killed because of Michael's gambling, it's the same as it's that media narrative. It's like clickbait back in the 90s. Like this is just used to it was utter crap. First of all.
Yeah,
everybody knew, even if you weren't a fan of Michael Jordan's, even if you were a Chicago Bulls fan, you knew this was utter crap. It was just used to sell papers and to draw ratings. That's it. And then Michael announced he's going to retire for the first time. And the news gets leaked out during the game 1 of the ALCS. Yes, the Chicago White Sox were actually a good baseball team back in the 90s, folks. Frank Thomas, Jim Thome, look them up.
Yeah, Paul Konerko, maybe? I can't remember if Konerko was there.
In the 2005. I think it was 2005. Jack McDowell was part of that team too. He was the ace of that squad. Ozzie Guillen, all those guys.
Oh yeah.
Then we come to the other conspiracy theory about the secret suspension. I'm putting it in air quotes for our listening audience. I'm putting in air quotes secret suspension. Again, total crap. NBA knew was the cash. Michael Jordan was the NBA's cash cow. Like there was no way that David Stern was going to suspend him. And as the former vice president of NBA communications said, I'm not going to censor it. Total bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was. Absolute. And Michael Jordan goes to play baseball, gets a tryout contract with the White Sox, who is owned by, coincidentally enough, owned by Jerry Reinsdorf.
Yep.
And basically at the time, he was the highest earning minor leaguer in Major League Baseball history. Because he was still paying out his contract. His contract, his NBA contract at that time, Dustin, and this is courtesy of Spot Track. In 1988, Michael Jordan signed an 8-year extension for $25.7 million. His average salary from 1988 to 1995 was $3.2 million.
Wow.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take it right now, but still, yeah.
And then during his minor league stay, you come to that SI cover. That SI cover with him swinging wildly at a bad pitch with that big headline, and he never gave another interview to Sports Illustrated ever again because he didn't care about their opinions. He said too, Steve Wolf never came to interview me. Nobody from SI never came to interview me. It was just a cover story, again, for sales. It's like clickbait on the internet. In the 1990s.
Yeah.
And like you said, Tito Francona was his manager for the Birmingham Barons back in 1993 or 94, excuse me. And hit 202, had 50 RBIs, hit a couple home runs. And he said, yeah, he worked at it every single day. He was in the cage, taking breaking balls, taking all sorts of pitches. And yeah, and even Reinsdorf believed, yeah, he could have gone to the major leagues. I believe it. If you work that hard for it, to come back to baseball after 14 years of not playing it.
Yeah.
You make the squad.
Well, and he's also, his personal trainer said that he modified his training regimen to get his body ready for baseball. And he told him, he said, Michael, this is going to affect your basketball body. And Michael said, I don't care.
Don't care. Yeah. Let me come fast forward to 98. About Michael Jordan after a poor performance in the first round, game 1, nearly losing to New Jersey. Michael Jordan's teammates giving his teammates hell, put his onus on Scott Burrell, became a target, and like you said, Dustin, his teammates feared him. Teammates absolutely feared him. And I'll wrap this up real quickly.
Yeah.
Coming back to the 93-94 season, the Bulls become Scotty's team. Tony Kukoc he needed some time to learn the NBA game because he started his professional career in Europe. Come to game 3 of the Eastern Conference Final, and Kukoc gets the last shot. Scotty gets angry, and Bill Cartwright says, "You quit on this team."
Oh yeah.
And Scotty was tearful, had a tearful apology to his teammates, and the team comes together. They lose in 7. Then we come fast forward to April 98. They sweep the Nets in 3. And these two quotes stood out to me. Towards the end of the episode when Jordan's he knew, I was a bully. I put fear in my teammates because I wanted them to be at my level. He said, winning has a price, leadership has a price. And he also said, he said, yeah, my teammates would always say he never asked me to do something he wouldn't do.
Yep.
And then he just said, we're going to take a break. Because he was getting emotional, because he was realizing at 60-something years old, going back 30 years, I gave my teammates hell because I wanted them to come to my level, the level I was playing at. And if I came off as a bully, he seemed like he was remorseful.
Yeah, I think some of that for sure. He came off as remorseful, and it's funny, Ryan. I wrote down that exact quote myself, but he said, ask my teammates. He never asked me to do, and they'd tell you he never asked me to do something that I didn't effing do. So and then he said break. So we hit the same thing. I think some of it was he was definitely remorseful, but some of it I think he was just getting so fired up and being like, don't you understand? I wanted them to, I think it was just a lot of emotions for him.
Ton of emotions. That's why you need that break inside the house that is not his. As I relayed an episode in the first part of this series. But we're going to move on to episode 8. Episode 8 begins in the second round of the NBA playoffs in 1998. The Bulls win game 1 against Charlotte. Hornets take game 2. And that was the last time the Charlotte Hornets were actually a good team. B.J. Armstrong, Jordan's teammate in the first three-peat, was now a Charlotte Hornet. Hit the game-winning, let's say the dagger that won the Hornets game 2 of that series. And he said, "Yeah, I just had a moment." And Michael Jordan's like, "Yeah, BJ should have known better," because he woke up a sleeping giant. And it goes into Jordan constructing narratives to stay competitive. And we come to that story in the 1993 season of LeBradford Smith.
Yeah, poor LeBradford, man.
Poor LeBradford Smith. The first and last time I ever heard of LeBradford Smith. He scores 37 in Chicago. And the Bulls win that game, but Smith had the game of his life. Scores 37 points. Bulls still win. And he tells Michael Jordan, he said, and the legend goes that he puts his arm around Michael Jordan and says, "Nice game, Mike." To which Jordan says, "I'm going to put up as many points in the first half as that cat did the entire game." And when we go to the back-to-back, the home and home with the Bullets. Now the Wizards should still be the Bullets. But Jordan scores 36 points in the first half of the second of a back-to-back. Come to find out, Michael Wilbon says, "Yeah, Michael Jordan made that up."
Yeah, he never said it. Years later, he finally admitted it. Yep. He never said it.
Again, we come back to constructing the narratives to motivate as a self-motivation to stay competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And B.J. Armstrong kind of lit that fuse because the Bulls won all 4 rest of the games. They won the rest of the remaining games, 3, 4, and 5. And he said for game 3, pay back some mofo.
Yep.
Bulls win series. They go to the Eastern Conference Final. Rewind back to March 95. Michael Jordan was approached about and Jerry Reinsdorf admits, yeah, the idea of replacement players was a terrible idea. And Jordan was approached about being a replacement player, and he said, "No, I'm not going to take anyone's spot. I want to earn my spot." And he walked away, justifiably so. Good for him. And then goes back to Chicago, meets up with B.J. Armstrong. They go out to breakfast. Then they go to Bulls practice. He's playing. He's getting the juices flowing. And he puts out a statement. He talks to his agent and says, "Yeah, we're going to construct this thing. I'm going to construct a way for me to say that I'm coming back." And it says this wording, the press release is all wrong. And David Falk, his agent, just says, "All right, smart guy, you want to come up with the press release? You do it." And he just said, "I'm back." 2 words. Mm-hmm. 2 words, 6 letters, 1 apostrophe. "I'm back." At the time when he came back to the Bulls, they were 34-31. There was only 3 games above 500. They were struggling because they were missing that one piece, that extra piece that got them over the hump back in the time of the first three-peat. Horace Grant did not get a contract renewal with the Bulls. Shocker. And winds up signing with Orlando, part of that team with Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott. Like a young team that needed a veteran presence to kind of put the glue together. And he was that glue. He was the Elmer's glue of that team. And Dustin, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you on March 19th, 1995?
March 19th, 1995.
March 19th, 1995.
I can't think of it right now.
I know where I was. I was sitting my ass at home, ordering a pizza, watching with my brothers, and one of our best friends, a couple of their best friends, watching Michael Jordan's return back to the NBA. scored 19 points, 7 of 28 from field goals, had his shorts on backwards. War number 45. Got to get a few games to get under his feet, just to get his feet wet. Has the game-winning shot in Atlanta. Has the double nickel game at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. And we fast forward to the Eastern Conference semifinal against Orlando. Game 1, the steal by Nick Anderson. And then he comes to say, I guess 45 ain't 23.
Yeah,
well, guess what?
That,
you shouldn't have said that, because next game, 23, number 23 returns, and Jordan gets his vengeance, scoring 38 points in a win in Orlando. And you start to see that he's getting tired. And that's later in that series, as the series goes on, he gets tired. He's in baseball shape. He's not in basketball shape. And Jordan said it himself. I didn't have enough time to get myself into a shape where I could be competitive. And it just, the grind, starting to get the grind and starting to be tired. And Orlando went in 6. They went in 6. They hoist Horace Grant on their shoulders. And that just burns in the mind of Michael Jordan for the next couple of months. And his personal trainer saying, what do you want to do? He usually takes a couple of weeks off just to rest and just refuel and get charged up for the season. And Michael Jordan just says to him, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. And the trainer gets emotional about that. There's a few times where the trainer gets emotional in this doc.
Yep. They film Space Jam. They have Camp Jordan. I call it Camp Jordan, where they bring in a bunch of NBA players to pick up games after filming is done, before the 95-96 season, and he's scouting players, knowing their tendencies are. Then we come to the 95-96 season, they go nuts. And but you see the Jordan and Steve Kerr get in a kerfuffle.
There you go.
Kerfuffle.
There you go.
Thank you. I'll wrap things up. They go 72-10, the best regular season ever until 2015-2016. They go 23-2 in their first 25 games. The slogan for the playoffs is "Don't mean a thing without the ring." They beat Seattle in 6. George Karl slights him at a restaurant. Again, constructing a narrative to stay competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And we come up to probably the most memeable moment in the entire series, where Gary Payton said, I tired him out. I tired out Jordan. And Jordan's like, I had no problem with the glove.
Yeah.
And we come to the end of the
episode.
His laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what he said?
Is that what he said? And they win game 6 on Father's Day, 1996, and MJ's overcome with emotion because his dad's not there. And then the episode closes with Reggie Miller in the Eastern Conference Final, May 98 against Indiana. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to, you're sitting in the mirror, you're going to retire MJ. So that's what I got. Dustin, over to you. Episode 8 or 7. 8.
I will, it's 8. It is lucky number 8. I will go through this pretty fast because, again, you summarized it pretty well. I have in parentheses, comeback 45. 45 was his first number. That's why he wore it. And he viewed it. He said, Mike says, I viewed it as a new beginning. I didn't want to come back as 23 because I viewed this as a new beginning. But as you said, you could see he got himself in pretty good shape, all things considered, but he was just tired. His shots were falling short. He didn't have it. But one of my favorite quotes, you went into the LaBradford Smith story. Sorry, LaBradford Smith. I'm sorry that you got thrown into something you didn't even say. But I just have to say, the Hornets uniforms in the 90s, they were fire. If you were not a fan of any NBA team, but you still wanted to wear NBA stuff, you picked Hornet stuff. That's just the way it was in the 90s because those unis were awesome.
And those starter jackets.
Oh,
man?
yeah.
Come on. The logo athletic gear. Come on.
It was so good. So good.
So good.
But the quote that I have written down, I got a few written down, but the one is, Glenn Rice said, because BJ Armstrong had that moment, and he even said, I just had a moment, but Glenn Rice at the beginning of this episode, he said Mike does not need any more gas in his car to get going.
No.
And then you say something, And you see Michael Jordan smoking a cigar and he's swinging a bat in a kind of ominous manner. And he says, "That's all right. That's all right. He awoke a sleeping giant. We're awake now." He's basically saying. But I have a question for you, Ryan, that I wrote down and I posed it. And I said, would Michael have stuck with baseball if not for the strike? Because I really think he really thought he was done with basketball in his mind. I think he would have stuck with it.
That is one of the biggest what ifs in my mind that narrative I play with all the time. What if the strike never happened?
Yeah.
What if we had a 94 World Series? What if Michael Jordan continued to play baseball? Would he have gone to the major leagues? And B, what would the NBA be like today if there was an NBA? Like, would there still be an NBA around? Like, how different the landscape would have been from 1994 onward?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I wondered that immediately, and it's something I've thought about before. And the team was scuffling when Jordan came back. But he gave them a boost coming back, and he was rusty in his first game back. Then drops 55 at the Garden in his fifth game. No surprise. Jordan said he loved playing at the Garden. Mm-hmm. But Jordan's personal trainer gets emotional. Tim Grover, I think. Yep. Talking about Michael's obligation to give his best every game. And that's the thing. Michael put that on himself. He said, I got to give my best every game. If you're going to take 3 hours out of your day to watch me, then you're getting my best every game. And in an era of load management, that just speaks volumes. Michael wasn't taking a game off, okay? But
if you're listening on podcasts, you just heard my eye roll about when Dustin mentioned load management.
Yes. I think that's why a lot of people, and I understand, you got to preserve yourself. But I really have a problem with load management in the NBA. It's something I can't get my head around. But here's where the documentary starts to take, and I would say I view this almost as a book, Ryan. And if you want supporting documentation from a different perspective, go watch This Magic Moment, because they talk about the Orlando Magic perspective of this. And even in both documentaries, Horace says, I knew that them carrying me off on their shoulders was a bad. He goes, it felt great. But I knew it was going to be bad. Basically, that's what he says, that it was going to be a motivating factor. But this is also where not only do we start to see Jordan, another issue of him taking it personally when George Karl looked right through him at a restaurant, past him at dinner with Ahmad Rashad. But this is where Steve Kerr starts to take a much larger role in the documentary. And this in episode 9, I really like those two episodes because I have a bit of a personal connection with Kerr, which I'll get into after the commercial break. Mm-hmm. But Steve Kerr earned Jordan's respect because Steve Kerr stood up to him. They get into that scuffle. Yeah. And Jordan says he earned my respect because he didn't back down from me. And Steve said, I'm an idiot because it's Michael Jordan. He's going to beat me. But he said, I'm competitive. If somebody keeps grinded down on me, I'm gonna fight back. Steve Kerr is one of 3 people in this documentary that said, I respected Michael Jordan, but I was not intimidated by Michael Jordan. Yep. We're gonna get to who the other 2 are.
Mm-hmm. And that's right. And just an FYI about LeBradford Smith, played 2 seasons and change with the Washington Bullets after being drafted in the first round in 1991, was the 19th overall pick out of Louisville. Played with the Bullets from 91 to 93, was traded to the Sacramento Kings. After 94, never appeared in another NBA game ever again. He finished his career basically as a CBA player, played in Mexico for a bit, played in Poland, and ended his career in 2000 with the IBL Baltimore Bay Runners. So there you go. There's in case you're wondering what happened to LeBradford Smith.
Yeah.
There you go. LeBradford Smith, if you're out there, want to be interviewed by us, let us know.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll review the final 2 episodes of The Last Dance. So stand by and stay tuned for more. No credentials required. Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets. I mentioned this in the first part of our series about The Last Dance, and I'll say it again. What would have it been like if SeatGeek were around during the 1997-98 season of the Chicago Bulls? What kind of prices would you want to pay on just for one ticket to see one game, no matter where you were, whether you were in Chicago, New York City, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Atlanta, where they actually had to go to the Georgia Dome to have Michael Jordan's final game there? Well, if you were to find out where tickets were for the best available price, you would have gone to SeatGeek.com and found those amazing prices with their amazing price tool. Save yourself some money with a great deal with their pricing tool. They'll let you know where the best seats or the best price are. But it's not just for basketball, it's also for baseball. It's also for football, hockey, concerts. It's not just for sports. It's also for concerts, comedy shows, Broadway shows, anything that requires a box office seat. You're going to find it at SeatGeek.com today or any day. If you're looking for tickets, go to SeatGeek.com. You're going to use promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you get $20 off your first order of $50 or more. So save yourself some coin by going to SeatGeek. Use promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. You get $20 off your order of $50 or more using that promo code. All right, episode 9. We are approaching the final 2 episodes of The Last Dance. And Dustin, I'm going to have you lead off with your thoughts about this particular episode. We're going to go. I don't know about you. I took a lot of notes on the final 2 episodes of this series, so our thoughts might be go a little bit more than 10 minutes. Although we've done that already so far.
Yeah, I mean we're doing pretty good by our standards. We're trying our best here. There's a lot to get to in this doc. Watch it if you haven't.
Absolutely. And again, if you're watching on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, leave us your comments with your memories of this Bulls team. So, Dustin, let's talk about episode 9 of The Last Dance.
Okay, so episode 9 to me goes back to the old format just a little bit of the first 5 episodes, where it centers around a couple of people. Jordan, of course, he's the son. We said it in our first half of this review, this rewatch. He's the sun, but there are other planets that revolve around him. And episode 9, I have in parentheses Kerr and Gus Lett. So, okay, so my connection to Steve Kerr, I do not have like a personal connection with Steve Kerr. I do not know Steve Kerr, but in high school, I used to play basketball after school with the same group of friends for many years, and we would mix it up with street hockey occasionally. But do you remember when you played basketball, Ryan? Everybody wanted to be a certain player, and our friend Steve Shin, he was very good at basketball, and he said, "I want to be Iverson." We're like, "All right, you're Iverson because like you're the best. You can outplay us all." And I went to him and I said, "Steve, what basketball player would you say that I am?" And first he said George Mirasan, and he started laughing at me. And I was like, "Come on, man." But then he said, no. He goes, "Seriously, Steve Kerr, because you could shoot the 3. So I was like, "Oh man, he called me Steve Kerr." Like I took that, and I always kind of liked Steve Kerr because I liked the way he carried himself, and that's before I even knew.
Did you take that personally?
I took it personally. The mirror side.
I took it personally.
Yeah. But this episode, it opens. It's Reggie and the Glove both say that they were not intimidated by Mike, and Reggie, I believe it. The Glove. Mm-hmm. The Glove's confident, and the Glove was a great defender. Don't get me wrong. Gary Payton, I think Gary's was a little bit more posturing maybe. But with Reggie, you believe it. And also with John Stockton later, you believe it when he says intimidated. No, I respected. Yes. But he's like, why would you want to play like that? And John Stockton said that with like, you believe it. So John Stockton, Reggie, and Steve Kerr, I think, are the three people that were like, I didn't back down from him. He wasn't in, I wasn't intimidated by him. One of my favorite quotes of this entire episode is David Aldridge when he's talking about Reggie Miller. He said, Reggie had insane confidence. And that sums up Reggie Miller, because think about it. He had to grow up in the same house with Cheryl Miller. Cheryl, probably the greatest women's basketball player of all time, scored like 100 points in a game. He's got to deal with that, So of course it's going to shape him. Reggie, very confident, great trash talker, but he said Michael Jordan's one of the best trash talkers in the game. But Michael says that if he had to pick two teams in the Eastern Conference that gave them fits, he said Indiana was the toughest, and they started laying down. That Indiana team that they faced in those Eastern Conference finals, it was no slouch. They had Mark Jackson. They had the Davis brothers. They had Chris Mullin. They had Jalen Rose. They had Reggie Miller. I mean, they had
Rick Smits.
Yeah.
Duncan Dutchman.
And again, you want supporting documentation for this? Go watch Reggie Miller versus the New York Knicks. This is an earlier time period.
Winning time.
Yep. Winning time. Reggie
Great
Miller
30 for 30.
New York Star. Yeah, you got to watch. I mean, man, if you watch all this stuff, you get all this perspective. It's great. But Mike's motivation for beating the Jazz is that we go to the 97 season now. Karl Malone wins MVP in 97, and just like 93, Mike's pissed. He says,
"Oh,
no,
look, we're constructing another narrative."
Yes,
made him even more.
Yes, and he said it became personal for me, which is why I put it in my headline, because he says it like 5 times in the back half. It became personal for me, George Karl. That's the way you want to play it. It became personal for me. I'm like, I almost was on my couch when he was like, Karl Malone wins MVP. I went like this. I was like, Mike, did it become personal? And then he said it. He said it.
Say the line, Bart.
Yeah.
Took it personally. Yeah.
But this is the flu game. This is the flu game too. But we find out the flu game was really food poisoning because he ate that pizza. And that trainer says, I had a bad feeling about it. And Mike's throwing up. And it's another Jordan moment. It's another one of these moments that just goes down, and they become commonplace for people that witness them. He did things like this so much that it's kind of like, it's not until years later when you realize, oh man, that was like ridiculous. And you could see the genuine disbelief in Jerry Sloan's eyes after Game 5. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what to say. He is on the podium as surprised as anyone. Jerry Sloan, longtime coach for the Utah Jazz, great coach.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, but this is where the episode really takes a different turn for me, and it's Steve Kerr talking about what happened to his father, Malcolm, which I did not know about prior to watching this documentary, and it makes sense how it shaped Steve and how both Steve and Michael Jordan, I am not comparing Steve Kerr to Michael Jordan, but there are some parallels. They both threw themselves into sports after the passing of their respective fathers. And Steve Kerr talks about his path to the NBA and how it was different and how he barely got a scholarship to ASU at the last second. They offered him a scholarship, and then he gets his opportunity with the Cavs. But he says, I'm watching the Bulls and I'm seeing what John Paxson is doing. And he said, that's the spot I need to be. And then he said, to a credit to John Paxson, he said that when Steve Kerr got there, Paxson's kind of at the end of his career, but Paxson took him under his wing, kind of mentored him a little bit. So but the story of Malcolm Kerr getting shot in the head, ridiculous, like just heartbreakingly. And one of the documentarians, one of the people working on the documentary, says to Steve Kerr, did you and Michael ever talk about your fathers? And he said, no, I think it was too painful for both of us. And you can see the pain when Steve Kerr is recounting that day. He gets the dorm room call at 3 a.m. And he just drops it after he says, a family friend called and said, Steve, I have some terrible news. And then he just says, yeah, similar to Jordan earlier in the documentary. He just says, break. You could tell Steve was done at that moment. Steve gets a lot of time in this documentary, and I think he's an instrumental part. But he was just done with that. And then it goes into Jordan's relationship with Gus. This episode is very focused on the relationship between a father and son, or, a father figures, and it straight up says, Gus's wife talks about how Jordan was the first one to notice Gus was sick. And also that Jordan would call Gus crying late at night after his father died, and that Gus would wake up and go to Jordan. You can see they don't focus too much on it, but what they do really drives home the point of the importance of their bond. And you can really see how he leaned on Gus and all of the Sniff brothers, but Gus was the ringleader.
The Sniff brothers become more than just like a bunch of kind of goony security guards, like guys to goof around with. They can become like a brotherhood. Yeah,
a trusted inner circle, and you could see that Jordan's personal trainer was in there as well. Obviously, he was there with him at the hotel, and he was somebody that Michael obviously trusted. But this episode also talks about the Jazz and how good they were in '97, and that they were a good team in their own right. And this is where you see a lot of John Stockton. I'm surprised they didn't get Karl Malone for this documentary. But John Stockton, he says, and that Jazz team, I know people view them a certain way, but Karl Malone's one of the greatest players of all time. He's up there. He's a Hall of Famer. John Stockton, a Hall of Famer. And Jeff Hornacek, underrated. I'm going to come out and say it. Jeff Hornacek, I believe is he also not in the Hall of Fame? I think Jeff Hornacek might be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I could be. But Jeff Hornacek, he was also
not in the Hall of Fame.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. Okay.
No, which is a shame.
Yeah. I doubted myself as soon as I said it, but then I was like, well, he was very good. But again, I think he's underrated. And it talks about the Jazz team and how the Jazz gave them fits for sure. But Indiana also gives them. This is where you start to see 97's where you start to see the beginning of other teams rising to the Bulls, or just the exhaustion of the Bulls having to go through this all the time. And the fact that blew my mind is, and I got to make sure it's in episode 9, not episode 10. Let me see. But at some point, the Game 7 against the Pacers, that was only the second Game 7 the Jordan era Bulls ever had to face, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, the first was in '93 against the Knicks.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But you also had a Game 7 in '94 with the Knicks, but Jordan wasn't on that.
Michael wasn't there.
Was not there. By the way, Jeff Hornacek's nicknames: Scarecrow, the Paper Boy, because he always delivers, and Horny. Other
that last one. Oh man.
Also born in Elmhurst, Illinois, which is right down the road from Chicago. So
oh wow. Okay.
Chicago born and bred. So all right, my thoughts on episode 9. Again, we talked about Reggie Miller, how he respected but did not fear Michael Jordan. Although he talks about his rookie year, had a game against Michael Jordan. The first half, he's doing great. Michael Jordan's not having a great game. Talking all sorts of trash to Jordan. Jordan had, and Reggie Miller says, I scored 2 points the rest of the game, and Jordan scored a lot more. And he scored like 36 points in that game. And he looks at Reggie Miller and says, don't ever talk trash to Black Jesus.
Yeah.
And he has 3 nicknames for him. So the 3 nicknames, it was Black Jesus, that Black Cat. There was another one I can't remember. what it was, but
I think he just called him. I think he said he called him Michael. He never
or
called him
MJ,
Michael
yeah.
Jordan. Yeah, Michael or MJ. I can't remember, but I remember Black Jesus and that black cat. Which that black cat, I don't understand that one, but I mean Black Jesus. Obviously, after that,
Don't
he's
ever
gonna
talk.
get.
Don't ever talk trash to Black Jesus.
Yeah.
But it's also really surprising. I thought this was. I was blown away by that fact because I forgot about it. It was very surprising that this was the only time that Jordan and Reggie Miller met in the playoffs.
Man,
This was the only time these two ran into each other in the playoffs. And as you said, Dustin, this Pacers team was the team that gave the Bulls the toughest time at any point during their run. And I don't think it was just the Eastern Conference. I think it was just overall.
yeah.
Because at that point they were getting a little bit older in the tooth. They were tired. All that the previous two runs where they're playing over almost 100 games a year. And at that point they just want to win those games, get to the next round, get to the next stage.
Mm-hmm.
Bulls win games 1 and 2. Pacers win game 3. And we're also introduced to that lady.
Oh my God! Yeah,
that Pacers fan.
Oh, she was really getting after it.
She was a real one. I was like, wow, 98 lady. Gosh.
Yeah, well, that's what you see if you go back again and watch Winning Time. All the Knicks say they hated playing in Indiana at Market Square Arena because, I mean, you see it. Go back and watch, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, Market Square Arena was no joke back then.
No, it wasn't. That lady's poor husband. Although, never mind. I'll say that'll be a green room comment. It won't be for air. But Game 4 was arguably the best game of that series because it was back and forth affair. Pippen missing those 2 free throws with less than 5 seconds left. Miller hits the shot with 0.4 seconds left, where he hits that little shove, that little nudge on Jordan to get free and hit that 3. But then it pans to Larry Bird's face after he hits that 3. He's just like this.
Yep.
Makes that face, that perfect face. It just tells you we left too much time on the clock for Jordan. And 0.4 seconds was just enough to get a shot off, and you see it rattle out, and the game, the series is tied at 2.
It was a double clutch shot too.
He double clutched, and he still got the shot off, which was amazing in its own right. And then we rewind to 97, 69-13. They breeze through the Eastern Conference. They meet Karl Malone, who won regular season MVP again, crafting that narrative to get yourself motivated. But he also talks about Brian Russell and how during his retirement he went to watch a game with the Jazz. He's clowning around with Malone and Stockton, who were his dream team teammates, and Brian Russell's giving him crap saying, "Why'd you quit, man?" And Jordan's like, "Ever since then, he made my list."
Yeah.
He made the list of Jordan.
He goes, Carl, you better talk to this dude, because Brian Russell was saying, I could have guarded you. I could have guarded you. Why'd you quit?
Yeah. And he talks about his weak points, and it's like, it's going to come back to haunt him. And it did. Game 1, hits the game-winning shot over Russell. Into the finals, by the way. Game 1, hits that game-winning shot over Russell's to win. Game 2, Bulls win by 12. Game 3, Utah wins by 11. Game 4, another tight game. Jazz win by 5. They get the last 5 points of that, last 5 or 6 points of that game to win. Game 5, the quote flu game, which it was not the flu. And when you're Michael Jordan and you see 5 people come to your door,
come on,
with 1 pizza, you should just stay hungry and just get some snacks from the vending machines in the hotel bar. But nope, I'm hungry. I want something. Nobody else eats the pizza except for Michael Jordan. He eats the entire pizza. 2:30 in the morning, throwing up. And let me just say, for someone who recently had food poisoning and had to miss an episode of this podcast because he got food poisoning's no fun.
Oh no. Yeah.
Food poisoning is a bad bad time. It is not fun at all. But unlike me, who had to endure a flight back from Atlanta to Albany and then just lay in bed for an entire day and miss this day at work, Michael Jordan played 44 minutes of Game 5 of the 1997 NBA Finals and scored 38 points, and the Bulls win by 2. And this is one of the best quotes by Jerry Sloan, where just another one in episode 10, where they asked him, "Did you know Michael Jordan was sick?" And he said, "He was sick? I didn't know he was sick. I guess I was the last one to know."
Yeah.
He was just a flabbergasted that Jordan had food poisoning. Or at that time, it was called the flu because they thought he had the flu. Nope. And then we come to Steve Kerr being an overachiever, John Paxson taking him under his wing. Commonality between Jordan and Kerr was that they both lost their dads. Steve Kerr much earlier than Michael Jordan. But here's one other commonality between Kerr and Paxson is that they both earned their trust with Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Paxson actually entered the league a year before Michael Jordan. But again, they had to earn they both had to earn their trust with him, and Kerr stood up to Jordan in practice, got socked in the eye, and took on the chin like a man. But from there on, they respected each other. And come to Game 6 of the 97 Finals, slow start by the Bulls, by Kerr in particular, and we come up to kind of call back to the 93 Finals when everyone spoke on the defense, focuses on Jordan. Big mistake. You leave Steve Kerr open. He's at the top of the key, puts in the game-winning shot. They get a stop on defense, score extra. Kukoc gets the dunk, kind of put the icing on the cake. Bulls win their 5th title in 7 years. Then we fast forward to May 98, Eastern Conference semifinal. We're kind of introduced to Gus, his background of being kind of like the part of the goon squad that's around Jordan, the security guys who are around Jordan, who later again become his kind of inner circle in Chicago Stadium and at United Center. And Michael was there. Gus was there for him when he needed some comfort after James's passing. And Michael Jordan was there for Gus when he was diagnosed with lung cancer, went to every one of his treatments, helped him out, made sure he was there for Gus. They want to win Game 7 for Gus. Boom. They win Game 7 for Gus. And the Bulls struggle in that game, but they eventually win the series. Which brings us to the final episode of The Last Dance, and that is episode 10. This is all about the 1998 NBA Finals. And earlier in the series, we find out that the Utah Jazz sweep the Bulls in the regular season series. They both finished with the same record, but by virtue of Utah winning both games, Utah has home court advantage for the entire series. And what's interesting is that the first three-peat, Bulls had home court advantage for the first 2 series. They did not have home court advantage from the last series. Same thing happens here. 96 and 97, they have home court based on their outstanding records where they lost less than 25 games in 2 years, in 2 seasons. Then in the third year of their three-peat, they don't have home court advantage. And they talk about Michael Jordan and Mark Fensel coming back, the author of Rare Air, where he's chronicling Michael Jordan's time with the Chicago Bulls, talking about Zen Buddhism, being in the moment. He says you go through years of going to an ashraf and going and learning under a teacher and learning under a master. And Michael Jordan perfected all that. He was just in the moment. He was always in the moment. And Michael Jordan, I wrote this down. And what's interesting is that as we record this on August 2nd, the year of our Lord, or August 3rd, the year of our Lord 2025, I'm sitting in church this morning and they're talking about anxiety and what to worry about, not to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, just be focused on today. And this really stuck with me. Michael Jordan says, "Why would I think about a shot I haven't taken yet?"
Mm-hmm.
How true. How true. That's not applies to just a basketball court, being a professional basketball player. It applies to life too. Why think about things that are going to happen tomorrow tomorrow isn't even happened yet. Tomorrow has troubles of its own. Let's focus on the now, which is really interesting. And it took that away. It just the parallel between church and what Michael Jordan says is just it's there. It's there. It's an interesting parallel. Game 1, loud, hostile Delta Center. Bulls losing game 1 in overtime. And Jordan says, look, we were exhausted, but we were still focused. They win game 2. You go back to Chicago. I wrote this down. Game 3 at Chicago. Defensive masterclass by the Chicago Bulls. The Jazz score an era low, and that's playoffs, regular season, 54 points. Every single Chicago Bull, starter, sixth man, bench, all 12 men, all 12 or 10 or 11 men on that team gets on the scoreboard.
Yep. Bill Winnington was the last, I think.
Bill Winnington was the last with like 20 seconds left. He hits a 20-foot jumper, gets the 2 points, and everybody scores. And and Bulls win by 42 points. And another quote by Jerry Sloan, may he rest in peace. He looks at the score and he says, "This was actually the score." Then we see Dennis Rodman doing Dennis Rodman things because he's Dennis Rodman.
He's NWO for life, brother.
For life. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He shows up for an episode. He doesn't go to practice. He shows up for an episode of WCW Nitro, and it's that line. And he's in the locker room in the back with Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, and Hulk Hogan says, "Well, I guess there are some things worth missing practice for."
yeah.
And then he comes back to practice. They hit him with these Nerf sticks or whatever they're called, bouffons or whatever they're called, because he's brought fame and dishonor to their team. They run through practice. Dennis doesn't want to talk to the media. We see the game within the game with Rodman, or as Jordan calls him, Rodzilla. and I call this game the getting Dennis the hell out because he got nothing to say to nobody game.
Yeah,
and that Dennis sprints for the exit before the media can catch up with him because nobody can catch up with Dennis, and he's out. He's gone.
That was one of my favorite little scenes within the episode, is watching that. The media relations guy's like, "All right, come here. Here's the dilemma. There's about 300 media over there, and Dennis ain't got nothing to say to nobody. His words, so we got to get him out of here."
I wish I could do it in that accent.
Yeah.
The Chicago accent is just legendary. But here's the thing. He goes to practice, game 4, tight game again. Rodman comes through with getting rebounds, and he hits 2 clutch free throws to put the Bulls ahead and help them win. And they're 1 game away from winning their 3rd title in a row for the 2nd time in this decade. However, the Jazz spoil those plans, win by 2, go back to Utah for game 6. No pizza this time. I think Jordan learned his lesson after that game 5 from the previous season. No pizza. It's just, straight up nothing, no shenanigans. Until Scottie Pippen starts to develop back spasms during warm-ups. And he said basically the entire game he was a decoy. I'm a decoy. All throughout the game, Malone and Rodman, they're battling for position. You see that tumbles they take together, they're tripping over each other, trying to get back. Pippen's trying to get back, not Pippen. Rodman's trying to get back on defense. Malone's trying to get on offense, trying to join his crew. They both get technical fouls. I remember where I was for that game too. I was with my brother and my newlywed brother, my brother and my sister-in-law, who were newlyweds at the time, still married. We're just hanging out at my parents' house watching that game, just seeing if history would happen. And Scottie Pippen, for all the stuff that he took in '94, all the crap he took in 1990 with the migraine, he could have shut down. He could have said, "Nope, I'm done." He was the true hero of. We talk about Jordan hitting that game-winning shot over Brian Russell. Pippen was the true hero of Game 6 because, again, he could have quit. He could have quit on his team. He could have just said, "Look, I can't make it. I can't go through this. I'm done for this game." He gutted it out. He's a true veteran. Now we come to what I call absolute cinema. Bulls are down 2, or Bulls are down 4. No, Bulls are down 3 with 41 seconds left. Phil Jackson calls a timeout. Jordan goes to the hole. They're down 1. Go back to the Jazz side of the floor. And the Jazz are just running the same play over and over and over again. And they're killing the Bulls with this play. It's basically John Stockton's at the ball, going to get to the low post. Malone's there. He's going to hit a jump around, turn around jumper, gets it in. That's the same play they're running over and over and over again. It's this patented play they've had it for so many years. But Jordan doesn't clear, comes back, strips Malone, attacks Malone's weak side, strips the ball. He's got the ball. He's looking at Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson's like, no time. We're not taking a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
And we come to the final shot, which should have been the final shot of Michael Jordan's career. We'll talk about that'll be another episode. We're talking about the 2001-2002 Washington Wizards. But you see Jordan with the ball. He's got the ball. Everybody's trying to clear the lane. And, we saw what happened the previous season. We saw what happened in 93 where they're clearing out. They're all focused on Jordan. You think he's going to pass it. This time around, no. He wants the final shot. Final shot. Attacks the hole. Fakes out Russell. As our friend of the show, our boy of summer, Kevin Wilson, said he pushed off. He did not push off. He's already driving in that direction. And it's just, again, as Bob Costas had said, it was just a maitre d' showing the customer to their table. And Jordan hits that shot, that epic. You see that image of Jordan with the hand, with 5.2 seconds left. The Jazz have a chance to win.
Yeah.
Stockton misses. Bulls win their 6th title in 8 years. And we just see the party afterwards. We see Jerry Krause getting interviewed being asked, what's your plans for next year? He's like, I don't want to think about it. I'm just happy that we won. I just want to focus on the celebrating tonight. And here's where Scotty turns things around. Because as much as Scotty and Michael had their relationship with Jerry Krause and how toxic at times it was, Scotty gave Jerry Krause a ton of credit. He said, "Yep, we can't knock him. He gets a lot of credit because he helped construct that team." Phil Jackson did the handiwork with getting the guys using the triangle system, playing defense, because that's what the kind of player that Phil Jackson was. He was a defense first guy. Krause should get all the credit for constructing these teams and making them what they were. And David Stern just saying basically that watching that parade afterwards, the rally in the park, he says, yeah, at that time, the NBA was only available in 81 countries. Now it's available in 215 countries. And the Jordan era elevated the NBA to a truly global product. Mm-hmm. Now, season's over. The rally's over. Reinsdorf offers Phil Jackson the chance to come back. Phil says, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I need a break for a while. Understandable. And then Jerry Reinsdorf, we see Michael Jordan get a tablet from one of the producers. And he's playing that response by he's playing that quote by Reinsdorf, basically saying it would have been suicidal for us to bring back everyone. It would have been suicidal to do that. And I just wrote in parentheses and big letters, cheapskate. because Reinsdorf has been running his teams, both the Bulls and the White Sox, the same way since the 1970s, promoting one from within. And have the Bulls won the title since 98? No, they haven't. And we come to Michael Jordan's response to Jerry Reinsdorf, where he says, basically, when Phil said it was the last dance, it was the last dance. And and if he brought back Phil, if he brought back Pippen, it would have been a chore. It would have been really tough to bring back Pippen because he wanted the money he wanted to restructure his contract. If we would have brought back Pippen, I would have absolutely came back. Mm-hmm. They asked him, does it still drive you crazy that you didn't get 7. He said it was maddening because we would have won 7. And then we come to the final part where Phil Jackson has the last meeting with the team, saying it's time to go. They had that ritual where everybody from the team writes things down. They're putting things to rest. They're writing down their thoughts. Michael Jordan wrote a poem, although he said it wasn't really a poem, but he wrote a poem. They wrote down their thoughts and emotions about the season. They put it in a coffee can and they burned it. And then it says in my tagline, it started with hope. And that was the last we hear of Michael Jordan. Not Michael Jordan's voice from 1984, but Michael Jordan at that time in 2018 as being interviewed. It started with hope. It started with hope, and that was Chicago Bulls. I've gone on way too long about this episode, so I'm going to hand it over to my co-host to get his thoughts about episode 10, the final episode of The Last Dance.
Well, thank you, sir, and beautifully said. So I will just add a few things here, and that will dovetail into my final thoughts overall about the documentary. And then I'll leave it to you to give your final thoughts, and we'll land this big plane.
Yeah.
But in parentheses, I have the 1998 finals because we're here now. The Last Dance. This is the conclusion. This is the closing number for the Last Dance. So this episode really focuses on the 1998 finals. There's not much else in here.
Yep.
The Bulls come in tired and on the ropes. And Utah was motivated and ready. And you could see it building up. After the Pacers took the Bulls to that 7th game, Steve Kerr said that Utah was basically waiting for us. We had to fly to Chicago, we had to fly to Utah, after the game. But they were waiting for us. And you could see the exhaustion on Jordan's face, everybody's face. And you're just thinking, and then they cut the shots of Karl Malone riding Harleys with people, and they're saying Utah's ready for this. They were shaped.
Yeah, and before you go on, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this was Utah's 1998 playoffs. They beat Houston in 5 because they were 5-game series. It was best of 5 in the first round. Then they beat San Antonio in 5. They beat the Lakers in 4. So they were well rested and ready for this Bulls team.
Yeah, they were ready to go.
Please,
but it brings back the old adage of, would you rather have a well-rested team, or would you had to have a team that just had to fight and didn't have any time off? There's been a battle between the two mindsets for as long as sports has been going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Rest versus rust. And so the episode shows that even though Rodman is causing problems and is a distraction off the court, he is essential on it. That's what I have, because there's that sequence where he has, it seems, every rebound off a Bulls miss. He's got it. And he's getting rebounds off Jazz misses. It's crazy. But then Scotty's back injury, and you went into that in detail, so I won't go too much into it, but for me, this was a little bit of a redemption for Scottie Pippen, going back to 95, where he quit. He quit on his team. He wouldn't go in because Kukoc got the last shot, and he was mad. Yep. And Scottie said that he made a mistake there. He said, I realized I made a mistake, especially after the team told me I did, and I felt really bad about it. And Michael Jordan called, I forget who he called, but he called somebody while because he was watching the game while he was playing minor league baseball. And he said, Pippen knows better than this. This is going to be a stain for Scottie for a long time. And it turns out it is. People still have things to say about Scottie Pippen.
Yep.
Because of that. And also, he hasn't done himself any favors with some of the way that he's come off in later years. But in this documentary, Scottie and how he handled his back injury is a redemption arc for what he did in 95. Yep. He's exercising the demons. He's proving to his team, I'm here, I'm ready to go. He couldn't give them much, but he they were massaging him for 5 minutes so then he could play for 5 minutes. He did not quit. And somebody said most people would have quit. Scotty didn't quit, so he gutted that one out and redeemed himself a lot. And then the stills of the Utah crowd when Jordan's shot over Russell was in the air. That was something to see. Everybody was horrified. They were,
except for that one kid wearing the Bulls jersey going like this.
Yeah, they were holding their collective breath, because you could say a lot of things about Utah, but they love their Jazz for sure. But yeah, Michael's reaction to Jerry Reinsdorf's reason why, after they win, and you see it, and they have the final meeting in the park and the championship, and everybody says we don't know if this is going to happen again. And even this is where I get a little irritated with the reporters in 1998. He's in his hotel room. He's enjoying it. He's playing the piano, because only Michael Jordan can get a piano in his hotel room.
Yeah, right.
And
in Utah, no less.
Yeah, he's playing the piano. He's relaxing. He's got a cigar. He's going, and a reporter immediately says, "You got to be feeling good. You coming back next year, Mike? You gonna go for it again?" And it's like, just let him. The game just ended.
Let him have it. Yeah,
the game just ended. He's just trying to unwind. Like, let it happen. Let it breathe a little bit. So that I was just kind of like, man, read the room, guy. But Michael's reaction to Jerry Reinsdorf reasoning why he had to break up the team. He says, as you said, we would not have been able to retain everybody at the value that they would have commanded on the market. Jordan's reaction to that was interesting, because he said, you offer everybody 1-year deals. You're telling me they're not going to come back? See, he said, Scotty, it would take some convincing, but he said, I definitely would have come back. If Phil was coaching the team, I would have come back. You offer Kerr, you offer everybody else, Rodman, you offer everybody else a 1-year deal to try to go get number 7. We would have all come back. Everybody would have come back. And he said that he said that 97, 98 was the best because he could use his mind as well as his body.
Yep.
And this was the time where early in his career, he knew how to use his body, but he said he's so frustrated, and why he's so sure that they could win 7 is because this was at his peak, where his body still had it, but his mind was at its peak right then and there. And to me, that's the theme of episodes 6 through 10. 1 through 5 was setting up the construction of the team and the construction of the Bulls as a unit, but it heavily focused on Jordan's feats that he was able to do, his physical feats. And everybody talks about just the next level. They talk about the work ethic, but just how physically gifted he was. But episodes 6 through 10 really focused on his maniacal ability to use his mind as a weapon and perceive things as slights that were not slights, and to do all these things, the mental gymnastics that he had to put himself through. Jordan multiple times says it became personal for me. And that's because episodes 6 through 10 focus on his mind as the weapon that it was. Episodes 1 through 5 focus on his body. And to me, that's part of the brilliance of the documentary, its overall theme. It's why I think this documentary is the measuring stick. It is the blueprint. You can see echoes of this documentary in every documentary that has come out, especially in the sports realm after this. And Ryan, I know you haven't seen it yet, if my memory serves, but I would like to get your reaction to The Captain. Because The Captain is made by a lot of people on this production team, and maybe we'll get to it someday. But to me, this documentary is the magic, because it was to my knowledge, it was the first to really try and do this format with this way. And they have the advantage because of the footage, but the overarching themes and everything that they tackle in this documentary, it is a master stroke. And I think it is the measuring stick for a sports documentary. And you can see it in the 30 for 30s that have come out since. The other things, like I mentioned, the captain, we talked about it. Charlie Hustle tries to model what this does. And to me, I haven't found something that does it as well yet. This is the measuring stick. And I pass it to you for your final thoughts.
Guess what? I haven't watched yet, Dustin.
Yeah, you haven't watched The Captain.
I have not watched The Captain.
Yeah. Yeah, but we just may get to it. We just may get to it at some point.
Yep. So, final thoughts on this. Will we ever see a team this well documented ever again?
No.
And will we have something like this in the future?
I would say the reason that I shook my head, if you're watching on YouTube, and sorry, audio listeners, but I shook my head, I assure you, I shook it vigorously. Unless there is a bucket of unknown footage that we did not know that existed, and all of a sudden that footage is there, we won't see something like this again. Because that, to me, is what puts this over the top. The fact that they had all of that footage from 98 made 98 feel like a present within the present. It wasn't just reflecting back. It wasn't just older people that are older now, and then you're reflecting back in the footage, they're noticeably younger. This documentary straddled two times, and it just had that extra something because that 98 footage was there.
Yeah. If you're wondering what happened after the 98 season, it says so in the credits, and it kind of goes off in the sunset, which is kind of underwhelming, but
yeah,
that's the only thing I didn't like about that was the final. But Jordan retired for the second time. Scottie Pippen traded to the Rockets. Dennis Rodman was released, went to the Lakers, and concluded his career with the Mavericks. Luke Longley traded to the Phoenix Suns. Steve Kerr traded to the San Antonio Spurs, where he helped the Spurs win the 98-99 championship with the Twin Towers, David Robinson, and Tim Duncan. So, but to answer my own question, no, we're never going to see something like this ever again. Based on the fact that Michael Jordan was such a key figure, not only in the growth of the NBA as a global entity, but the way that even without the help of social media, like today's athlete, you see them everywhere. You see them everywhere. It doesn't matter how big or how well known people these athletes are. They're always on social. They're on social media. All on social media. We didn't have that. They didn't have that benefit back in the 1990s. And for Michael Jordan to do what he did, all the commercials he did, all the products he had with Nike, and then later Jumpman, which is kind of a spinoff, kind of owned by Nike, but not really. But it's kind of its own product now. Like you see the Jumpman logo on college jersey. University of North Carolina, they wear Jumpman gear. University of Michigan, they wear Jumpman gear. I think Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley. I know Derek Jeter for a fact was one of the first athletes other than Michael Jordan to earn a Jumpman contract. Yeah. And I think Jalen Hurts is also today currently wears Jumpman he's a Jumpman athlete. Yes. But yeah, you're never going to see anything like this ever again, I don't think. Unless somehow we get a transcendent athlete. And I haven't seen one although you could argue if your Edmonton Oilers win a trio of cups in the next couple of years. I think I'm watching that series, especially episode 7 and episode 6, Michael Jordan's maniacal drive to be the best. The only athlete I can compare this to now is not a basketball player. It's a hockey player. It's Connor McDavid. And we kind of saw that snip of him, especially in this year's Stanley Cup, where I think it was after the second period of one of those games where they're losing badly. He's just throwing his gear in frustration saying, "This ain't effing working." And he's yelling at his teammates. That's the only athlete I can think of in today's realm that sort of has that maniacal drive compared to Jordan. You don't see it in baseball very much.
No.
You don't see it in football a whole lot. And also, you're seeing a lot more documentaries about seasons now.
Yeah.
That are made for the next season. Like, this is unique and special because we're seeing it. We're seeing footage from the last dance, the 97-98 season, and we're chronicling back all the way to 84 to 85, all the way up to the last title with this Bulls team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this won't be ever. I don't think we'll ever see this like this ever again.
I don't think so. It won't. And as much as I'd love for your analogy to become the closest with my Edmonton Oilers, they already had 2 bites of the apple and they failed. And the thing is, I think Connor's going to leave. I just feel it. I think he's going to leave.
Well, we'll find out after next year. But in the meantime, thank you for sticking with us. We've watched both parts of The Last Dance, our Last Dance retrospective. We want to thank you for listening. We want to thank you for watching. If you're watching on Belly Up Sports YouTube. But before we go, I want to remind you to please follow us on social media. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for No Credentials Required. Also check out other podcasts and written articles at bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast, including any podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, YouTube, and Podbean. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, lastly, on YouTube and on Twitter, so you know when our live shows go up, when general announcements go up, and when video clips of our episodes go up. So again, thank you for watching or listening to this retrospective of The Last Dance on No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by Belly Up Sports. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Thank you again, and we will see you very, very soon.
Good night, or good morning, or good afternoon, everybody.